2005, shocking news spread throughout Henan Province, China. Liu Debin, a US-educated PhD holder, former university professor and doctoral advisor, serving as vice president of Henan Provincial People's Government, was sentenced to death for murder his wife. The question arises, how could such a brilliant scholar and high-ranking official fall so far as to become a convicted criminal facing the death penalty? It wasn't until 2013 that this scandal, considered the most notorious among Chinese Communist Party officials, was fully revealed after 8 years of cover-up. A diary-style book published by Zhaohai Publishing House brought this story to light, even though Liu Debin had already been executed in 2005. His case also set a record for the shortest time between filing an appeal and the final sentencing and execution. As a US-educated PhD with exceptional intelligence, his grave mistake led to the phrase, "as stupid as Liu Debin," becoming a common saying at Henan Agricultural University, where he once worked, and it's still referenced to this day. Liu Debin was born in May 1953 in a small village in Henan Province. His childhood was marked by hardship. His father was disabled, and his mother was seriously ill. Despite extremely poor study conditions, he always strived for excellence. His talent and diligence led to his election as the village's youth league secretary at just 18 years old. 1975 marked a turning point in Debin's life. Right after graduating from junior high school, he was fortunate to be admitted to Henan Agricultural Institute, now Henan Agricultural University. At that time, university admissions were based on recommendations from local organizations. With his good background, he was selected. University students then were called worker, peasant, soldier students, and Debin seized this precious opportunity to change his fate. Throughout his time at the university, Debin consistently proved to be an outstanding student with an insatiable thirst for knowledge. After graduating, he went on to become one of the first graduate students at Henan Agricultural University, specializing in genetics and breeding. A crucial factor in his success was the mentorship of Professor Fan Lian, who later became the vice chairman of the Henan Provincial People's Congress. Liu Debin was fortunate to be highly regarded by Professor Fan Lian, who provided him with many favorable conditions for his studies and research. By 1982, after completing his master's degree, he decided to turn down a job opportunity at the Ministry of Agriculture to continue teaching at his alma mater. At this time, Professor Fan Lian had secured a valuable study abroad opportunity at Kansas State University in the United States for Henan Agricultural University. Liu Debin was chosen for this opportunity, becoming one of the first Chinese students to study in the US after the Cultural Revolution. Before departing, he married Guo Lihuan, his college classmate. 6 months later, his wife and their infant daughter were also permitted to join him in the US. There, Debin demonstrated tireless dedication to his studies. He devoted most of his time to improving his English, determined to overcome the language barrier. After 6 years of intense study and research, Debin successfully defended his doctoral dissertation in 1988. Despite receiving attractive offers from companies and universities in the US, Japan, and the Philippines, and even opportunities to work in Beijing, Liu Debin decided to return to his hometown in Henan. He believed he couldn't forget the oath he took under the red flag before leaving: to study, succeed, and return to serve the motherland. After returning to Henan Agricultural University, Liu Debin achieved numerous notable accomplishments in scientific research. In particular, his research on wheat gene transfer reached international leading standards, making him the province's top expert in wheat breeding. For these outstanding contributions, Debin received special allowances from the State Council. With his exceptional work performance, Debin's career rapidly advanced. He successively held important positions such as Dean of the School of Agronomy and Vice President of Henan Agricultural University. The organization department also highly regarded him and viewed him as a potential high-level leadership candidate for further training. However, just as Debin's career and scientific achievements were at their peak, his family life began to encounter turbulence. The relationship with his wife, which had initially been quite happy, gradually became tense. The main reason was their conflicting views on caring for Debin's parents. As a filial son, he always wanted his parents, who had endured poverty and hardship for decades, to enjoy a good life like his own now that conditions had improved. Moreover, he set high expectations for his wife in caring for his parents. Debin wanted his wife to be as filial to his parents as he was, from serving meals to the elderly parents to caring for them when they were ill. These demands gradually created distance and conflicts in their marital relationship. But Li Huan was an intellectual woman. After returning to China, she continued working at the training center of Henan Agricultural University and had her own career, achieving certain accomplishments. At this time, their daughter Ting Ting was also growing up, and the burden of raising a child along with her research work made Li Huan feel pressured. Over time, this led to her growing discontent. These disagreements gradually deepened the conflict between Debin and Li Huan. From 1996 to 1997, not long after he became vice president of the Agricultural University, their relationship had deteriorated to the point of no return. Finally, in November 1997, they decided to divorce, with the agreement that Li Huan would have custody of their daughter. However, Debin couldn't have anticipated that once the wheel of fate started turning, it couldn't be reversed. Having experienced the pain of a failed marriage, he felt exhausted both physically and mentally. Looking back and analyzing the reasons for his marital failure, Debin came to a rather subjective conclusion. He believed that educated urban women, while having their own careers and willing to be good wives and mothers, were unwilling to take on the role of dutiful daughters-in-law. Therefore, he thought that choosing a rural woman with lower education would be different. This perspective of Debin reflected a rather biased and stereotypical view of women's roles in the family. It also showed his deep disappointment with his first marriage and his desire to find a new relationship that better aligned with his traditional family values. One day in early 1998, after consulting with his father, Debin decided to look for a second wife from his rural hometown. This wife had to meet 3 conditions. The lower the education level, the better. The plainer the appearance, the better. And she must be willing to care for Debin's elderly father, as his mother had passed away by then. With these new criteria for choosing a wife, in late 1998, Debin met Chen Junhong. She was a typical rural woman, average in appearance, 14 years younger than Debin, and from a village in Henan province. She hadn't finished middle school and was still working as a farmer at home. In August of that year, through a relative's introduction, the 32-year-old Chen Junhong met Debin. She expressed her willingness to care for Debin's elderly father, a big plus in his eyes. Subsequently, Chen Junhong officially came to Debin's home as a housekeeper, taking care of his seriously ill father. Over time, Debin's elderly father lavished praise on Junhong. He said she was like his own daughter, attentive and devoted. These compliments left a deep impression on Debin. By the end of 1999, after more than a year of Junhong caring for his father, Debin decided to officially marry her. Junhong thus became the legal wife of the renowned university vice president. Their joy doubled when at the end of 2000, she gave birth to a son for Debin. It was the year of the dragon, and having a son made him extremely happy. He felt a deep sense of gratitude towards Junhong, and his affection for her grew even stronger. More than a year later, Debin was promoted to vice president of the Henan Provincial People's Government. As a result, the family of 3 moved to live in a spacious 2,150 square foot apartment for provincial-level cadres on Dongming Road in Zhengzhou City. Their life was luxurious, with housekeepers and chauffeur-driven cars. In early 2003, through Debin's arrangement, Junhong got a job in the documentation office of the School of Agronomy at Henan Agricultural University. Junhong had transformed from a rural woman to an urban dweller, from a housewife to a civil servant in a state institution. As her living circumstances changed, Chen Junhong's personality also gradually transformed. From someone accustomed to serving others, she began to show arrogance as the wife of a high-ranking official. She started criticizing family members, treating Debin's secretary like a servant, frequently ordering them to do this and that. If anything displeased her, she would scold them harshly. This change in his wife greatly disappointed Liu Debin. At this time, through an introduction from a former subordinate, he became acquainted with Zhang Mei, the sister of a forestry department leader in Xinjiang City, Henan Province. Zhang Mei, a woman over 40, initially came to Liu Debin for help with work matters. However, after several interactions, Debin began to have feelings for her, a woman full of femininity and understanding. Gradually, the two began a secret affair. Although Debin thought he was acting discreetly, in February 2003, Junhong discovered traces of her husband's infidelity. One evening, when Debin returned home late from entertaining guests and went to take a shower, his phone left on the coffee table suddenly received a message notification. This incident marked the beginning of a series of crises in their marriage. Already suspicious of Debin, Junhong didn't hesitate to check her husband's phone. Her expression suddenly changed when she read an extremely affectionate message signed, "Your little sister who will love you forever." Enraged, she didn't wait for Debin to finish his shower before confronting him. Despite Debin kneeling down to beg for forgiveness, Junhong was unrelenting and slapped him several times. Nevertheless, Liu Debin continued his secret affair with Zhang Mei. This led Chen Junhong to constantly create conflicts at home. The situation became even more tense when Junhong received a call from an unknown number, warning her to keep an eye on her husband and prevent him from seducing other men's wives, or else Debin would face trouble. The climax occurred on an evening in April 2004. When a friend of Liu Debin came to visit, he witnessed a horrifying scene. Junhong, completely disregarding the presence of the guest, chased Debin around the house with a sharp fruit knife. Debin had to flee in panic to avoid his wife's knife attacks. These events show that the relationship between Debin and Junhong had reached a dangerous level, with violent and uncontrolled behaviors. This situation not only affected their personal lives, but could also potentially harm Debin's reputation and career. After Debin's affair was discovered, his relationship with his wife became extremely tense. Junhong's attitude towards her husband and his family changed completely. She began imposing strict rules to control Liu Debin, such as requiring him to return home immediately after work. If he was late, even by a little, she would create endless trouble. All his salary and other income had to be handed over to Junhong for management, and every expenditure required her approval. Moreover, she threatened that if Debin continued his relationship with Zhang Mei, she would report his wrongdoings to the Provincial Party Committee and the Provincial People's Government, causing him to lose all honor. The situation worsened in mid-August 2004, when Debin went to Xinjiang City for a meeting. Junhong secretly followed him and rented a hotel room opposite Debin's. That night, she caught Debin and Zhang Mei in the act of adultery. After this incident, Junhong repeatedly sought out provincial leaders to report Debin's behavior, completely destroying their marital relationship. Realizing the situation was beyond salvage, Debin carefully considered and proposed a divorce, promising to pay Junhong a substantial compensation. Initially, Junhong agreed to this proposal. However, after careful consideration, she changed her mind. She declared to Debin that she would not divorce him, and if he tried to force it, she would expose his bribery, potentially leading to his imprisonment. Faced with these threats, Debin no longer dared to mention divorce. From that point on, Debin's family life became extremely tense and unstable. Compared to the relatively civilized arguments he had with Guo Lihuan in the past, Junhong's attacks were much more violent and cruel. Whenever they argued, she not only verbally abused, but also physically assaulted Debin, sometimes slapping him, sometimes using sticks, forcing him to kneel and beg for forgiveness. She also used extremely vicious words to curse or force Debin to humiliate himself, determined to make him lose all dignity. Bullied and abused at home, Debin sought relief by confiding in his driver, subordinates, and even leaders in the Provincial People's Government. As a result, the story of his unhappy family life quickly spread throughout the Provincial Party Committee and the Henan Provincial People's Government. Many who heard about Debin's circumstances shared the same private comment. Debin's life was truly humiliating. Just as Liu Debin was being tormented by family issues, in June 2004, Zhang Songxue, the 43-year-old deputy mayor of Xinjiang City, came to visit him. He was in charge of agriculture and had a direct superior-subordinate relationship with Debin. On the afternoon of June 15, 2004, Yuhi invited Debin to dinner under the pretext of reporting work. During the meal, the two toasted and chatted about work and life. After a few drinks, Debin shared all his family troubles. Seeing the provincial vice president trust him so much, Yuhi felt greatly honored. From then on, he frequently called Debin, either to report on work or to inquire about his family situation. This quickly brought the two closer. One day in October 2004, Debin's older brother and his family came from their hometown to visit him in Zhengzhou. That evening, Debin wanted his brother and family to stay at his home, but Junhong strongly objected. In the end, Debin had to reluctantly arrange for them to stay at a hotel. That night, he and his wife had a fierce argument. Debin, unable to fight back or curse, was so angry that he cried. The next day, coincidentally, Yuhei invited Debin to dinner in Zhengzhou. Debin recounted all the grievances he had endured over the years, then angrily said, "Rather than living a lifetime with such a woman, it would be better to find some thugs to cripple her. I'm willing to support her for life." Seeing the provincial vice president so angry, Yuhi flatteringly said, "If the vice president really has such thoughts, I can find someone to help." Yuhei's suggestion ignited a dark plan. Instead of dissuading him, he was ready to assist with Debin's dangerous intention. The conversation quickly turned into a cruel conspiracy, with the two deciding to find a way to permanently eliminate Chen Junhong. Over the next 2 months, Debin and Yuhei frequently communicated, exchanging ideas to perfect the plan to kill Chen Junhong. The situation became even more serious when Yuhei found Zhang Songxue, a fellow townsman from Tanghe County, Henan Province, and promised him a large sum of money to carry out this criminal act. Zhang Songxue, an 83-year-old man, had a special relationship with Zhang Yuhei. He was trusted and valued by Yuhei, even being appointed as deputy director of an ecological agriculture company in Xinjiang. This position brought Zhang not only prestige, but also material benefits, including a private car. As a result, he always showed great gratitude and was willing to follow all of Yuhei's requests, including illegal and dangerous ones. After receiving the assignment from the deputy mayor around the time of the 2005 Spring Festival, under the pretext of accompanying Yuhei to give New Year flowers to Debin, Zhang visited Debin's home 3 times under Yuhei's guidance to identify Chen Junhong, preparing for the future crime. To ensure safety, Debin, Yuhei, and Zhang only communicated through a single line from start to finish. Debin only contacted Yuhei, Yuhei only contacted Zhang, and Debin never directly contacted Zhang. In April 2005, one of Debin's nephews in his hometown got married. He sent 2,000 yuan, about $250, as a wedding gift. Unexpectedly, Junhong found out about this, and the couple had another fierce argument over it. This argument quickly escalated into violence, with Junhong in a fit of rage attacking Debin with a fruit knife, causing injuries to his lower back and genitals. This bloody incident pushed Debin to the brink of despair and hatred. His determination to eliminate his wife became stronger than ever. In the following days, he repeatedly called Yuhei, urging him to take action immediately. By early June 2005, after thorough discussions with Zhang, Yuhei proposed 2 plans to Debin to carry out their dark conspiracy. The first plan was to pose as robbers, attack and kill Junhong at the house in the agricultural university. The second plan, more sophisticated, was to exploit Junhong's desire to buy a car to lure her out and then strike. After considering the plans proposed by Yuhei, Debin began to take the first steps for his sinister plan. He secretly took the key to the house at the agricultural university from the housekeeper when his wife was away, then asked the driver to make a copy. This key was then passed to Yuhei and finally to the killer, Zhang. To avoid detection, Zhang bought 3 new SIM cards from the Unicom network in Zhengzhou. He kept one for himself and gave the other 2 to Yuhei, one of which was forwarded to Debin. These SIM cards were used exclusively for communication among the 3 during the execution of the crime. In early June, Zhang, now with the key in hand, along with his accomplice Xiaotong, an unemployed young man, drove from Nanyang to Zhengzhou to wait for the right moment to act. However, their initial plan encountered an obstacle when they discovered that the housekeeper was always by Chen Junhong's side. Following Debin's instruction not to harm anyone other than Chen Junhong, they had to postpone the plan and switch to the second option. Meanwhile, Junhong had passed her driving test and asked her husband to buy her a car, but he refused. After being rejected, she scolded Debin for being heartless. Subsequently, Chen Junhong felt increasingly that her husband was cold and distant, so she said she had compiled a list of Debin's bribery incidents, which she was ready to send out. This terrified Debin, prompting him to call Yuhei and tell him to quickly eliminate his wife. Just as Yuhei had finished preparations, Debin began to have doubts. He couldn't bear the thought of his son losing his mother, so he decided to try one last time, demanding the so-called bribery list back. But Junhong told him, "Give it up unless you kill me. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me." These resolute words left Liu Debin completely hopeless. On June 7, 2005, Yuhei called Junhong and told her that someone was willing to spend 150,000 yuan, about $18,750, to buy her a car. He said this had been discussed with her husband, who agreed, and tomorrow they could take her to see the car and buy it if she liked it. Junhong was overjoyed and immediately agreed to go see the car the next day. Because he was busy with work that day, Yuhei carelessly used his regular work SIM card to call Junhong, instead of the Unicom SIM card that Zhang had prepared specifically for him. He couldn't have imagined that this small oversight would leave a clue for the police to quickly solve the case later. Early in the morning of June 8, 2005, Yuhei took 150,000 yuan from his savings and gave it to Zhang. This cash was meant to both deceive Junhong, making her trust and lower her guard, and serve as payment for Zhang and Xu after the crime. Around 10 a.m., Zhang used the dedicated Unicom SIM card to contact Junhong, luring her out. The three sat in the Passat car that Yuhei had prepared in advance to go see the car. The bag containing the 150,000 yuan in cash was left in the car, with the zipper intentionally left open for Junhong to see, making her believe they were really taking her to buy a car. On the way, Zhang drove through many winding roads. When Junhong noticed they were going in the wrong direction, she questioned where they were taking her. Realizing the situation was about to be exposed and seeing that no one was paying attention to them, Xu, who was sitting in the back seat with Junhong, suddenly strangled her until she lost consciousness. Then Xu used a fake Type 64 gun to strike Chen Junhong's head, killing her. After driving onto Highway 107, Zhang drove to an abandoned parking lot. The two men pulled Junhong's body out of the back seat and stuffed it into the trunk. Then, Zhang got out of the car and took a bus back to Xinxiang, while Xu drove alone to Tonghe County to dispose of the body. That night, Xu used sharp knives to dismember Chen Junhong's body, put it in sacks, added stones, and threw it into Hushan Reservoir in Nanyang. To provide an alibi for Debin to report to the police, at 2 p.m. that day, following Yuhei's instructions, Xu used the phone dedicated for the crime to send a message to Debin's regular phone. "Your wife is with me. If you want her to live, quickly prepare 500,000 yuan, creating a scenario that Junhong had been kidnapped." When Debin received the message, knowing that Chen Junhong had been killed, he told the provincial government staff to report to the police that his wife had been kidnapped. The kidnapping of a provincial vice president's wife quickly became the focus of attention for the entire government system. Upon receiving the report, the deputy governor, who was also the director of the provincial public security department, ordered a thorough investigation. News of the case spread rapidly to Beijing, prompting a high-ranking official from the Central Political and Legal Affairs Commission to intervene, demanding the case be solved as soon as possible and a satisfactory explanation be provided to society. Responding to pressure from above, the Zhengzhou City Public Security Bureau immediately formed a special task force and concentrated all resources on the investigation, naming the case June 8th case after the date it occurred. During the investigation, the task force discovered an important clue. Besides calls from unknown numbers, there was a suspicious call from Shang Yuhei, deputy mayor of Xinjiang City, to the victim just one day before the incident. This discovery quickly led to Zhang Songxue being detained by the police for investigation. Realizing the situation had been exposed, Songxue quickly confessed to killing Chen Junhong along with Zhang and Shu, and revealed the mastermind behind it all was the provincial vice president, Debin. At this point, the case of Debin's wife's murder was solved. On June 15th, the procuratorate approved Debin's arrest. The vice-provincial governor conspiring to murder his wife was not only shocking news for Henan province, but also set a national record, the highest-ranking official to be charged with premeditated murder since the founding of the People's Republic of China. Subsequently, police recovered the victim's remains from the bottom of Hushan Reservoir. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Debin quickly admitted to hiring hitmen to kill his wife. On July 22, 2005, the Zhengzhou Intermediate People's Court held a public trial. The defense lawyers for all four defendants acknowledged their clients' guilt in the intentional homicide, but argued that their clients were not the main culprits and requested reconsideration of the sentences. In his final statement, Debin said he had studied for over 20 years and made certain contributions to the country, hoping the court would give him a chance to start anew, so that in his remaining years he could contribute to society and atone for his crimes. However, all was in vain. After 10 hours of trial, the judge determined that the actions of Debin and the others constituted the crime of intentional homicide. On the afternoon of September 30, 2005, the Zhengzhou Intermediate People's Court announced the verdict. Debin was sentenced to death in the first instance trial. His accomplices Zhang Songxue, former deputy mayor of Xinjiang City, and the two killers Zhang Songxue and Xiaotong were also sentenced to death. Right in the courtroom, upon hearing the death sentence, Debin became very emotional, refusing to be handcuffed and shackled. He immediately declared he would appeal. On October 17th, the Henan Provincial High Court rejected the appeal and upheld the original sentence. The Debin case came to an end, but it left an indelible stain on China's judicial and political history. From a talented scientist and promising official, Debin had fallen into the abyss of crime. Although many years have passed, the Debin case is still frequently mentioned as a lesson about moral decay and the consequences of abusing power. It reminds everyone that position and power always come with responsibility and that no one can stand above the law. And that's the story for today. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.